So, Shahar, it is so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Thrilled.
For the podcast, it's like our community are a bunch of creatives and they're looking at how to implement technology. They're looking at what the future of projects is, how to put content across different platforms. We'd love to just kind of have you start with just a little bit of an overview as to, what you do, and then we can kind of go on your career path of how you found yourself, in your fun role.
I'm still finding myself, but thank
All
you.
those
we
cool
all we
Thank
all
you.
toys.
are.
The journey continues, I hope. I lead global marketing at Meta Reality Labs. That includes all the hardware and software within the ecosystem. So our Meta Quest headsets, which you see behind me, our Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses, Horizon and the metaverse, and all the content experiences that exist in the ecosystem, and all the fun innovation that we're still bringing to market.
I was at brand storytelling at Sundance this past winter, and you guys were on stage with the Ray Bans and some of the
Yeah.
content that they had recorded. It was everyone was in awe. It was so cool, and everyone I'm like, okay, can I put those in my glasses that I wear every day? It was
Yes.
fun.
The answer is yes. Yes, that's the point. But yeah, that was super fun. And we're actually planning to go back there this year. We have an even, I think, bigger story to tell this year at
Yeah,
Sundance.
that's no, it was people loved it, and when that new technology's on stage, it's so engaging. It's really fun. But you haven't always been in this tech, marketing world. Can you take us through a little bit, kind of your career changes? You spent a lot of time in more of the social, kind of not social justice, but your social passions, kind of informed your career and kind of how you evolved into where you are now at Meta.
Yeah. I mean, I'll go way back. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, got into law school, deferred for a year, and started working for John Kerry at the time, who was fourth term senatorial candidate up for presidential. And I discovered really marketing there. Worked for him for a year and transitioned over to Planned Parenthood. I was leading his women's platform and specifically his pro-choice politics platform, working at the time to legalize emergency contraception, what is now known as Plan B. And that transitioned me, as you said, into, you know, more of a social justice path. I really wanted to fight hard for women's rights and human rights, things that I think just thought everybody deserved to have and took for granted that I had, and wanted to make sure that we preserved that for generations to come. I worked in nonprofits, securing a pro-choice bench, and working with Planned Parenthood for a few years before I went to grad school and got my master's in marketing and communications. And that's what really fortified that career path for me. And from there, I spent about 8 years on the creative and media agency side and worked for some of the best brands in the world. And then I went to Apple. And this was back in 2011 when Apple really was starting to look beyond hardware and software and broaden their horizon on services. And I was one of the first hires that they made when they launched iAd, which was their advertising platform, and how do you really monetize the apps like Facebook that we're launching, and help app developers keep creating more content for their devices. And while that didn't last, I ended up working on iTunes and first generation of Apple News and Maps. It was really fascinating. So really cut my teeth in product marketing at Apple, and then transitioned to Snap, and really built their marketing team from the ground up, and helped them launch in dozens of markets internationally, and change the way that people communicate through the camera, and replace the keyboard with short form communication. And went on to Bumble. I was there during the pandemic and helped them go public and launch in 150 markets, which was super fascinating. And then, yeah, for the last 3 years, I've been at Meta, and feel like I'm at the right place at the right time in the right role. So feel very lucky.
No, that's fascinating. I mean, these names of companies you're saying, this is like the dream world. Like I was at Apple, then I was at
I
Bumble.
was gonna say, your resume
I know,
is
right?
like a dream. Like,
Thank
do
you.
you? It's like, I think it's interesting because it's kind of like it's a double-edged sword, right? In terms of working at these big companies and the innovation that you're experiencing, and you've touched on so many different types of launches and campaigns. And when you look at that, and then you look at some of the smaller companies, it's like you've been at all of the major kind of, you know, what do they call them? Like 10 years ago, I'm blanking, like FANG stocks. Was that what it was? Like Facebook, Apple, Google, like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
like when you look at that, it's interesting. I'd love to know, like, as you've navigated these larger worlds, it's like, what have you found? One, like the difference culturally across those that you've had to navigate, but two, you've been at the heart of the innovation cycle in the tech world that has really touched on, that B2B all the way to B2C now, right? It's like these are household names. They're not just some technology companies in the valley, right? And you've been part of that cycle for so long. It's like, what have you kind of taken out from your experiences at all of these companies?
Yeah, I mean, every company is inherently different, and
Yeah.
cultures within them are. I think what's consistent is my role has kind of always been at that intersection of marketing and technology, and
Yeah.
and what's fascinated me throughout my 25-year career journey is like I technology is really changing the way that brands and communicate with people and build those long-term relationships such that
Yeah.
they become household brand names that they are loyal to and that they trust. And
Mhm.
you know, I grew up before there were the phones that now I have two of them, right? Like
Our
one isn't
computers we
enough.
walk around with.
Yeah, and then, fast forward to the app store economy and like that changing the way that we consume content, to now, social and how we really communicate with both professionals but also our family and the world. We're always connected, right? And then now at Meta, I mean, we believe like the future computer like won't be something that you actually have in your pocket. It'll be something that you wear and it'll be
Yeah.
with you and it'll allow you to actually be more present because you won't be doing this
Yeah.
looking down. And so, these evolutions are also changing the way that humans interact and connect, but also how brands can interact with them. And so
Mhm.
that for me, like as a student of my craft, like I think that's what has fascinated me and why I've stayed in tech and why I love tech
Yeah.
versus working at a brand, where even though I work at a brand now, but it's a tech brand. And so it's very different. But the way that we have to go to market is entirely different because we invented a lot of these
Yeah.
platforms. And so I think consumers expect a
Yeah.
lot from us too, because, direct response and performance marketing was born on channels like Facebook and obviously Google as well. But I think like we need to show up in a way that others don't necessarily
Mhm.
or can't.
Yeah. How are you, as you're starting to look at, these new technologies and how to engage consumers, are you, Gretchen and I also always talk about the technologies that like we've seen stick and those that have come and gone and so forth. You know, are you finding now consumers are more, as well as just your community, more willing to adopt and try, like, especially in terms of your own journey, obviously as since we're all really old and remember what it was like to not have a mobile phone and a computer in our pocket, what has that been like for you, in your journey in the tech space? Because it's like, if you think about like where you came from to go from, really focused on women's rights and so forth, and to now you're in deep tech, in terms of what that looks like and, you know, and what that can do for the world. It's like, how has your worldview changed in that process?
When the tech either becomes, I think, two things. One, if it becomes a utility, something that like you'd
Yeah.
literally start not being able to live without. For
Mhm.
example, I have family all over the world, predominantly in Israel, and like WhatsApp is our lifeline. Like it is
Yeah.
Yeah.
literally how I communicate with them every single day. So that is a utility. right? Something that I can't live without. On the other side of it, you've got the glasses, Ray-Ban Meta glasses that we have a deep partnership with Luxottica. You know, that changed the way that I also communicate. It allows me to be more present. When I was in Italy recently on vacation with my kids, and like, you know, I'm a mom, I want to capture every moment. Like, I got to document their lives, right? I've got twins, they're almost 13. Like, I need to save every single moment. And typically you're like this, you're like, you're not even seeing the Duomo behind them or like Como behind them, because you're looking at what you want to capture in this 6 inch frame. And so I'm missing a moment, and I don't do that anymore. Like, it has literally changed the way I travel. I now am able to say, hey, Meta, take a picture. And it takes a picture without me having to take my phone out of my purse or my pocket and not interrupt what I am literally seeing in front of me. So I can still see my kids' faces. I can see the joy and delight on their faces. And I can also see what they're experiencing without that getting interrupted. I can also take calls, listen to music while I'm like, it's just changed the way that I
Yeah.
communicate. And
Yeah.
so, yes, it's a utility, but it's like transformative. And I think when tech becomes either a utility or a transformative, yes, I think people are more likely to adopt it and therefore use it every single day. If I were to just buy it and have it sit on my shelf, I don't consider that adoption.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you use it? Like, it has to become something that you do every day, like a WhatsApp. And I use my glasses
Yeah.
every day. I
Yeah, it
take
has to
calls
make
every
life
day. It's how I
easier.
listen to music. It's how I capture content on my kids' sports events, or, you know, it's
Yeah.
just changed the way that I am.
Making life easier and better is always the
Yeah,
goal. Yeah.
exactly.
Shachar, I'm curious with all the things that you're talking about, all the technology, and like Renee said, you're in deep tech. From from your day job perspective, how is it hard? Like project, I imagine there's product and projects that, going 100 miles an hour and then they stop, or there's a new project and there's a new, like all of these things that are percolating there at Meta. When do you engage? How do you engage? How do you know they're coming forward? From leading a marketing team and marketing perspective, how do you handle that? How fast paced that world is, and how many things actually come to fruition? How many things, maybe that you never see the light of day, even though they were super important last week. So how do you handle that from a, leading a team perspective?
Resilience. And flexibility. I mean, yes, like, you're right. I think the only thing constant is change. And so knowing that and being ready to adapt to it when it happens, and not being frazzled or upset when things that you have, heart for, like, you have to let go of. I think that's just like the nature of it. I think we never launch things that aren't going to do the things that we intended or wanted them to do. And so when we decide to not move forward with something, there's a reason for that. There's also a reason for us to launch things to then just learn, even knowing that, like, it may not be what we ultimately end up with. And that's okay too. As long as we're gleaning those insights and learnings and applying them to the next thing. But I think, ideas are sometimes, tightly held, and other times like loosely held, and it's part of the nature of working at a very high paced, rapid speed of innovation. I mean, I'll give you an example. When we launched Ray-Ban Meta glasses last year at Connect, when we were first planning that launch, AI was on the roadmap, but it wasn't on that launch timeline. And with the rapid adoption of AI last year, we said, well, we have this tech, like, we've been working on it for 20 years. Let's include it now. And so we actually moved things way up and launched with Meta AI as a core part and function of the glasses. And like, we did it in 3 weeks. I mean, we did that very, very, very quickly. So we also are, I would say, ready to move in, lots of different directions, and definitely plan contingencies and mitigations for what might go left or right and
Mhm.
be able to turn accordingly. So that's kind of the nature of how we operate. And then I would say that a lot of the platforms that we use to market, certainly within the family of apps, so Facebook, Instagram, etc., can adapt that quickly with us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we're able to make decisions that way. I mean, obviously other channels have much longer lead times, but we tend to have a contingency plan for backup plan,
Yeah.
kind of on everything.
Yeah.
To go back to you, and I know we're talking a little bit more like the cool stuff that's coming out, but I think part of our audience, they're all facing a scary world of AI coming into Hollywood. What does that mean? How is it going to be implemented? You're starting to see AI, whether it comes down to green lighting projects, to it basically is going to affect the whole supply chain of Hollywood in some way, shape, and form, right? And when you're a company or a production company and you're looking at new technologies coming in, um, you know there could be a natural fear, or you're vulnerable, right? And how you adopt it, how do you take that first step? And you've been at the forefront of taking a first step towards a technology that, like, most people would not have access to, right, until it's fully tested. You've gone through beta, you've got alpha, beta, and so forth. But you know what are the lessons you've learned as people come with new ideas of how technology could be or should be implemented? It's like you get to live in a world where people can think about a technology and invent it and it comes together. Whereas this, a lot of our audience is looking at, like, oh my God, if I don't implement AI, what does that look like? Or if I don't implement new technology, am I going to be behind the curve in 6 months? How do I do that? I am scared if I do it, because is that going to replace me, right? From a writing standpoint, or chat GTP, like, what does that all look like? And yes, there's obviously safeguards in place for them based on the guilds and so forth. But at the same time, technology is moving at the speed of light.
Yeah.
So, how have you faced that? And what are some tips that you can give our audience in terms of how to look at technology, not through the lens of almost fear or being scared, but more so being excited, and how to embrace that?
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you from our experience and use case, we do have a lot of products that we're trying to educate consumers on
Yeah.
at any given time. And there's multiple messages and multiple features and multiple ways that we could resonate with a particular consumer. And sometimes we're talking to parents of kids who want these things. Sometimes we're talking to early
Yeah.
adopters, and other times it's people that are upgraders and already have previous iterations. We want them to upgrade to the newest. And there's only so many like creative types that we can make, that a human can make. And there's what we have built into our like ads manager and creative tools, where using our studio, like, you can make tens of thousands of different versions of a creative, test it to know what is working and what is resonating with your audience, and then use that piece of creative to optimize against your goals. I mean, as a marketer, I'm results driven. Like, I need to drive outcomes, not just outputs. And if I can't demonstrate that the thing that we're trying to sell is actually being sold to the right person, doesn't matter, right? And so
Yeah.
for me, AI has been an incredible opportunity to allow us to iterate faster with creative and understand what is resonating with our consumers faster. And so my guidance would be to embrace it for the things that actually allow you to do your job better.
Finding the utility.
Yeah. I mean, it
Yeah.
goes back to that,
Yeah. No, I got it.
and also, like, I think being a student of it, like studying it, like figuring out what use cases work for you is really important. So for anybody who is afraid of it, I would say, like, the first thing that you should do is try it. It's not as scary as you think.
What are some of the new things in AI? And I know you mentioned the glasses. Are there things that you're really excited about that are coming next, and that are, whether it's a product or a platform, or that you're seeing from, from Meta or from anyone, that you're really excited about?
Yeah, I mean, so we just last week was actually Connect, which
Yeah.
was our big developer conference and where we announced a lot of the new innovations that we've been working on and that are coming. And we also premiered the first ever action film that was shot exclusively on the Ray-Ban Meta glasses. So we shot an entire film. Matthew Vaughn, very well-known director, shot it 100% on Ray-Ban Metas. And it was a whole new way to experience content and footage in a way that had never been shot before. So that is really exciting. And I think for content creators and for creatives, thinking about that as a new way, as a new channel for content creation, I think is fascinating. We also obviously launched Orion, or at least talked about Orion coming. And I think what is exciting about that is obviously the product that we have today, which is display-less glasses, but still AI enabled, is incredibly powerful for all the reasons I just talked about. And as you think about future generations having display, that to me is really exciting. And I think the future of what we see, spatial computing or computing overlaid on the world, and how you experience content without having to look down to experience it is going to be a complete game changer. And so I think that we talk about those things not necessarily because you can go out and buy it today, but because we want to help consumers understand, and developers help us build it, because we are building an open ecosystem where we need content creators and we need developers to build on our systems so that consumers have better experiences when the product is ready. But it also like allows people to open their minds to what's coming. And so I think that to me is really, really exciting.
I've heard so many podcasts in the last week or so talk about the conference and talk about it. And I feel like the message of we're figuring out how to keep technology moving forward, keep advancing, and get back to connecting with people, like what you talked about, not looking at your phone, not missing, how many times have we been at a concert and like, you're missing Paul McCartney because you're looking at your phone, those kinds of things that is, totally. But in the last week, I have heard that message repeated. So I think that the importance of that, that you guys are getting out that message, and that's the goal with all this new technology is really amazing, and it's hitting home, because I feel that was the takeaway that so many people had from Connect was getting back to actually looking at another human in the third glasses or in there, like you said, head up.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think concerts, I mean, we agree. So like we did an amazing event in Brooklyn with Busta Rhymes where we had a hands-free concert where phones were not allowed. We gave every single person a pair of Ray-Ban Meta glasses, and they could literally enjoy the show and dance and be present, but still capture their favorite song or favorite artist. We had a bunch of artists in addition to Busta. And then just 2 weeks ago, we did a big takeover at the iHeart Music Festival in Vegas. And similarly, like we had people in the front just like not with their phones, and they could enjoy The Weeknd and Dua Lipa and Gwen Stefani and all these incredible artists and like connect with them. Like they could actually see them and they could see them and not look at the back of their phone. I think you asked what's coming. I think on the other side of that, improved fan experience, we're also just improving human experiences. So for low vision, we launched a partnership with Be My Eyes, where using the glasses, everyone that is low vision impaired can use them as their virtual assistant, as their volunteer that can help them accomplish small tasks in their home or outside of the home. And like that to me is incredible. And that just goes well beyond utility, even though it is obviously a utility. That is life-changing technology for people that really need it.
That's incredible. I love that. I see people at our summit wearing the glasses. Instead of recording the different panels that they like, they're wearing their Meta glasses and being able to record and keep the panel information like they normally do.
Yeah, I wear them on stage every time I'm on, because first of all,
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I wear them on stage because it's awesome to see the audience that way. And also, it's a great way to just really showcase the product. But it is super fun. And I also wear them as an audience member, but for that very reason, because you just are more present. You're able to pay more attention because you're not looking at your phone to capture content or to hear if you got a text. It tells you through audio that you got a text, and you can decide whether or not you need to read it or respond to it or not, or just ignore it and keep paying attention.
No, it's very, very cool.
Gretch, we should wear them at our summit this year when we're on stage.
I know.
We should does Meta want to come in? Does Meta want to come in and have everybody on our stage capture it for us? That would be so cool.
Way, like have the front row wearing them so they can record the panels too. And if you're a blindy like me, we can pop those prescription lenses in right away.
We'll take you to Lens Crafters and we'll get
it done.
All good.
With the partnerships and this is kind of going back to your specific role, you mentioned all the concerts and the things you're doing, and we're seeing all of the spokespeople and the brand partners and the brand partnerships that you guys are doing with the glasses and then the VR and AR headsets. How do you choose those partnerships and those people that are speaking for Meta and representing Meta as a company, but then again finding the right audience and finding the right consumers at all levels, because these aren't cheap. These are expensive products. They're like the balance that you guys are hitting is from all of us, from a consumer, is like, wow, they're hitting a young audience, but they need to be able to afford these. They need to have the lifestyle where they can use them. And how do you work around all of those to find the right partners to speak for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So with Quest, we have a long-standing partnership with the NBA, and I think when we think about any partnership, it needs to be mutually beneficial. Like it needs to be something that's helpful for them as much as it is helpful for us. For Quest, we wanted to really understand how people experience live sporting events in headset and how we can actually improve and enhance that experience. Most people won't get to sit courtside like in their life ever.
Right.
And the technology within the Quest headset allows you to feel like you are fully immersive, sitting courtside at your favorite game. It also allows you to watch games while multitasking using our X Stadium partnership. So that was very beneficial because I think for the NBA, they obviously want to scale and democratize their sport and reach our audience. And then vice versa, we want to create more experiences other than gaming for consumers using the Quest headset so that they use it every single day. With the glasses, we actually had a ton of creators approach us and say, I'm already using the glasses. So Tyla approached us and said, I'm already using the glasses. I'm going to shoot my next music video. Want to do something together? Or Paris Hilton uses them when she DJs and to capture content of her young kids so that she can be present and catch them when they're running to her arms. So a lot of the work that we are doing with creators and with influencers is organic. It's how they're using the product anyways. And therefore it just yields way better content for their communities, for their audiences to really connect with them. But also I think it's created a new canvas for creators to storytell in a way that feels highly personal, but it's also real. Like it is literally how they're using the products anyway. So I think it's authentic, it's hands-free, it's fun, and it integrates into their platforms that they're already using with their audiences.
So just to shift to a personal note, one of my questions for you, and this is also like a user error thing that I have going on. I've had about 10 people teach me how to use Snapchat, and I cannot learn it. And given you worked at Snap, it is like the least intuitive product for me in the world, right? And both kids are obsessed with it. Both of my stepkids, like 16 and 12. That being said, when with your kids, do you test product on them, and are you like, do you have fun with them on it? Like, do they just think that you're the coolest mom ever because you get to play with all this cool technology that's like going to define their entire generation?
You're right.
They are my, go-to focus group. They definitely get access to all the technology that I've worked on over the years. And yes, when I worked at Snap, they had, access to it. Of course, they didn't have any friends on it. It was like just me and them. But it is fun to play with the lenses and turn your face into, a vomiting rainbow. Like it's fun to do that. And so when they had the Easter egg hunt every year on Snap, we would all play it, take the day and play it. It was super fun. They should bring it back. But yeah, I mean, I think the technology is so intuitive to them. Like they don't see difference.
It makes me question my intelligence that I cannot figure this out. And I'm like, come on, man. Come on.
No. I mean, if you're not like it is meant to be intuitive, but intuitive for the core target audience. And
I'm just not.
You're not it, right?
It's like Snap makes me feel old. Not even the fact that I like knew what it was like to not have a phone.
That's how I feel about TikTok, because it is harder for me to use that platform, even though I consume a lot of content on it. But Snap for me is like very intuitive, obviously, because I worked there for so long. But I mean, for my kids and for your kids and all of our kids, like they're like this function of like swiping and tapping and
it's crazy.
It is like they are just so good at it. And so yes, I mean, my son uses Quest all the time. My daughter wears the Ray-Ban Meta glasses all the time. It's very intuitive for them, and they don't see it as like a digital persona or their avatar is not them. Like it is just an extension of who they are.
Oh, that's so interesting. Do you have concerns around kids and technology? It's like, it's not I don't want to go into the controversy of it all by any stretch, but I was just curious in terms of like, what's like at home, right?
Yeah.
What are you like, yes and no to? Because it's like your kids get so much access to this technology, and then, and we see it. It's like my stepdaughter is dying to get on TikTok, and we're like, there's no way, right? And then I have a 7-month-old who he sees my phone out and he's just like trying to get to it. I'm like, you're 7 months old. Like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
Kind of like, what the fuck?
I know it is, but it's like they are born waiting for
crazy.
that,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think honestly, and I'll answer it as a parent, and then as someone that works at the companies, but like, I think, as a parent, like, yes, you obviously have to moderate and you have to have really open dialogues with your kids about tech for good and what's bad out there, and so that they know to identify it when they see it, they know to block it, they know to report it, they know to flag it to me or my husband, so that they are aware of like what's good and what's bad. I also think that there are parental controls for a reason, and we do have them turned on all their devices, and they can't buy anything without us approving it or download something without us approving it. I know lots of like our parents in our circle of friends that like check their kids' phone, and we're not there because we do trust them, and we also like have a lot of conversations about what is appropriate and what's inappropriate, and know that they're following that. But I think it's very reasonable to check in on what your kids are doing, and I also think that there are a lot of privacy controls built into the platforms. We just launched teen accounts recently on Instagram, for example, for that reason, so that there are those parent controls and privacy controls built into the safety of the app. I know Snap did things when I worked there, and I'm sure that they've kept up on it as well. I mean, I think of course safety is really important.
Yeah.
Privacy is really important. I think having really open dialogues with your kids about what is and isn't appropriate is really critical. And there's no right answer. I think all the platforms say like you must be 13 or older, but I mean, I see things as way older than 13, that things that I shouldn't
Yeah.
see that are inappropriate,
Right.
and then I instantly block it or report it. So you have to
Yeah,
be,
it's a learning process. We're all on
yeah,
this, we're
you
all
need
on
to
this
be
path in
vigilant.
terms of what it
Yeah.
means, but you have to be
Well, it
aware of
just
it.
changes.
Yeah.
It changes so rapidly. I'm thinking, and it's such a funny, the evolution of it. My kids are, they're 12 years apart from the oldest to the youngest, with four of them, and I have a son who's going to be 28 tomorrow, but he is like, he was like right ahead of it. So like, he was, never had to
Yeah.
worry about kind of, I mean, he always says like, he's so deprived. He didn't get his first iPhone until he was, in seventh
Oh,
grade or
geez.
something. But, just but where they all fall in that. But Shar, I'm 100% with you. It is, I've never ever checked my kids' phones. I've never looked at anything that they've done. First of all, I probably don't want to see it. Ew. But also, it's just the conversation. I mean, I can remember before I was telling Renee this story. I have three boys and a daughter, and the boys, like driving them to school in LA and being in traffic next to a bus with a big, huge banner on it that had all of these beautiful, I'm like, that's not real. They're airbrushed. Don't believe everything you, like, even before there were phones, even if they were too little to have, but like that open dialogue of, that's fake. That's selling you something. That's this. You're exactly right.
Well,
You can't, the
it's
more
like,
we all know this, the more you lock them down, the more they're going to find things. I
oh,
mean,
100%.
yeah,
I'm
and
fully, I
no,
am fully aware. My stepdaughter, like Alicia, has definitely tried to download TikTok and some other platform on some other computer
yeah,
that she found laying around the house. Like,
of
I
course.
just feel like she's like desperate for it. But
Or
at the
does it on
same
her friends'
time,
ones. Like,
yeah,
Yeah, or
like
looking
it's
for other
like
friends. Yeah, but it's the
it's
dialogue.
crazy,
It's
and it's
that
also
open dialogue.
it's open dialogue. And I also think that one of the things, like, I think as a step parent as well as a parent, they're blended. But like when I sit down and I think about the content coming out of Hollywood, and I see, like, because Gretchen and I have been talking, I don't know if you've watched it, like the new Adam Brody, Kristen Bell.
oh, binged it
Like,
first night.
like,
We love
oh
it.
my God.
We're
Oh
all in
my, okay.
love.
We're
Like,
all in love with Adam Brody.
genius,
Like, I was
genius,
like,
best show in
oh,
years.
Yeah,
it was like,
Best
it's
show.
like hands down, like we've been talking about it, so we've been like binging it, and we've been like texting. I'm like, oh my God, like I miss Adam Brody from the OC. Like, what? And we've been talking about it, but like it pops up on my stepdaughter's kids account as like, and I'm just like, there's so much content in, like, so many inexplicable things that
yeah.
she's, it's like, and it's like one of those things where it's like, will it go like this to her? Is that why she's being, because they know her, like, it's just like, but at the same time, like, they're in a sex store in like the second episode, and you're like, like, there's just all this stuff,
Yeah.
and they're just being inundated with all of this content that it's like, even Gretch, like you and I talk about even the difference, because Daniel at 16 and your boy is even like, what,
Yeah,
Brady's
20, yeah.
4 years older than him.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
there's already a difference between what
world of
Brady was
difference.
exposed
Yeah,
to what Daniel was
yeah,
exposed to, right?
yeah.
And now, like, and then I have, like, it's funny because I'm really protective of my new one, and I won't even put him on an Instagram pic. Like, I'm just like, you're not going online.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to preserve this as long as humanly, like, I put like the heart on top of his face, like all this stuff, right? Like, but I'm like, I can't even fathom the technology he's going to have in 10 and 15 years. Like, it's not even worth me reserving his name on social media, because these are going to be like, what are these platforms going to be? It's going to be like Snapchat, and then I'm going to really be freaking lost. I'm going to be like, what?
He'll be
It's
teaching
like,
you how to use it.
yeah,
Yes.
I'm going to be like, this is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But
Yeah. No, the digitally native generations it's such an advantage to them. And I'm not one of the people. I always feel like I love Diane von Furstenberg, because she's 90 or whatever old she is, and she's always like, technology is fantastic. I can talk to like she says, I can talk to I can talk to my family all over the world. Like, she's never like looking back at, I wish, and I think that's unhealthy for all of us. Like, I don't wish that we didn't have phones. I don't wish that we didn't have, like, let's all look at, like, it's our job to look at the positive of technology and create the positive of technology. We have to fight the negative of technology. We don't fight technology. And I think I love those messages of, But yeah, Grayson is not even going to, like, he's never even going to know a world, but it's up to us to make sure that that technology
Like
is
what
like,
that looks like. Yeah.
it's positive and it's useful and it's moving the world forward, all of those things. I love that.
Yeah. And I think it's our job to show that there's so much that is for good and that you can
Yes.
do on it that is fun and
Yes.
entertaining and
Yeah.
educational.
Yep.
So that's what we're going to keep doing,
Yep.
making sure that we,
Exactly.
keep the content entertaining and fun.
And positive. We're here with you.
Yeah.
Healthy.
We're
So
here.
many,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like health now is just so prevalent because
Yeah.
of technology and social media and all of the information that's coming. And it's like, yeah, you can absolutely find way more positive than negative, and you have to be looking for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Shachar, it has been so nice to meet you. Oh my God, I feel so young and smart after this call.
I feel like you took 10 years off of my my
right,
age here.
right.
Oh my God, I love it.
No, I'll just tell
I
you
can
a
come
fun
back
thing.
every week if you
A
guys,
fun thing we're doing with
Benjamin
VR
Button.
at Movie
I love
Pass.
it.
So at Movie Pass, we're using VR, kind of what you were talking about, the NBA. We're using the headsets. So if like a really hot movie is sold out on Friday night at a certain theater, we're getting the theaters to add like 5 VR. So it's like you're in the audience 7 o'clock on Friday night with the busy audience, but you couldn't get in. So I mean, it's limited now, and it's so great because the one-on-one experience with VR kind of avoids that the piracy issues.
Yeah,
And
theater mode is incredible. It's changed so much in the new headset.
Getting to recreate those actual theaters, because you want to be in the one that sold out on Friday night at 7 o'clock, but you actually got those 5 extra VR headsets. So it's kind of like that NBA experience that you were talking about, not from a cost, but from a prohibitive cost, but from a prohibitive space and experience. We're adding those in VR. It's really cool.
I love it. I feel like there's a partnership in the in the
there's
works here.
Yes, there's a couple that I think.
Yeah,
really
I was going to say, and we'd love to kind of experiment if you guys are open to it at our summit in February.
Yeah.
Like that would be so cool for our audience, especially just
absolutely.
For us.
Use it as like
our fastest growing vertical, honestly, in terms of how people are using all the devices and also just like enhancing it, is a really key part of that. Like we are genuinely trying to enhance that experience, not replace it. So,
very
whether
cool.
it's music or movies, it is a superior way to experience it.
Yeah, that's very
awesome.
Well, it was so nice.
Well, it was so nice to meet you.
Likewise. Thank you. Thanks for having me, and great to meet you both, and look forward to getting you in the glasses.
Okay, we'll be in touch.